If you're looking for that edge on your one-handed backhand, going out and hitting a ton of balls may not be the answer. Really what the answer is learning the right drills to do, because drills are going to create the habits you need to make sure you take on the court. This is one of the major problems with most players when they go out and they try to improve a stroke, is they don't know what drills to do to create the new habits that they want to show up on the court. So maybe they go take a lesson and they learn the concept of what they need to do, but they don't do the drills that create the new habits of what they should be doing when they're on the court. So in this video, I'm going to show you 5 drills to really accelerate your improvement for your one-handed backhand. So let's get into it. The first concept I want you to understand for any drill you're going to be doing is a drill needs to focus on one thing. Too many times I see players and coaches doing a drill and it's focusing on 5 or 6 different things, and the student doesn't have a chance to really focus in and hone the one specific thing they're trying to do. So now that you know why you should focus on one drill that focuses on one thing, let's get down to drill number 1. Drill number 1 is going to focus on the unit turn. The reason why this is important is because if you want a stronger one-handed backhand, you have to make sure you're preparing your body and the racket, and the unit turn is all about doing both of these things at the same time. So let's go right now and do a drill really quickly to show you how to start training your unit turn, so the moment the ball's struck, you know what to do and it becomes a new habit that you can start implementing on the court. So it's really simple. Take your racket, hold it all the way in front of you. Take your dominant hand with the knuckles up, have it on top, and take your non-dominant hand, knuckles facing bottom. So you have this over grip, under grip. From here, get your feet in a nice ready position. And all we're gonna do is twist. Now when we twist, we wanna make sure that the strings are facing backward and that we're looking over my shoulder. You can tell here from my shoulder is under my chin. So this is the position we wanna get into. Also notice how I had to turn in my leg a little bit, okay? So from here, all we're gonna do is 10 reps of just simply turning here. Now the whole reason that we want to turn like this is getting used to this very first move. This is one big area that a lot of players struggle with because they're not doing this first move. And the reason why and how this relates to your backhand is if I turn, I'm ready to now release and go forward. And the reason why I had you have your hands like this is because all I have to do now is pull my hands down to my grip, use this as my non-dominant hand, and if I'm in a ready position and I see that I'm getting a backhand and I change my grip, I can use this to turn and get into this position right here. This is one of the most important positions for the one-handed backhand. So again, if I'm here and here, all I'm gonna do is turn, and then now you can separate your hands and you can see how you're ready to hit the ball. And it's gonna create so much more power and effortless power because you're gonna be able to coil your body and then release it. So I recommend at least 10 to 15, 20 reps until you feel really comfortable that when the ball comes, your first move is here. Now that you have that drilled down, to make sure you're preparing the racket and getting the racket back soon enough, is now we need to talk about how do we operate the racket itself? How do we leverage and get the most out of the racket? And the drill I want to talk about is for the butt pull. You may be thinking, butt pull, what is the butt pull? The butt pull is basically how to leverage your racket like you're using a hammer. And this is the best analogy I have for this, is think about how you use a hammer. Would you go out and use a hammer like this? No, it's inefficient. What we'd use a hammer is pull down on the bottom of the grip and really make sure the head's coming down. And by doing that, you're gonna get the most leverage, power, and velocity from your racket at speed. And the only way we can do this is take this drill and start practicing it so we know exactly how to use it when we're on the court. So let's go do a quick drill to focus on the butt pull and how we pull our racket through contact to get the maximum leverage so we can get the maximum velocity and power on our one-handed backhand. So the first thing we're gonna do is hold the racket like a hammer. Just like this is the head and this is the tail of the hammer and this is the handle. From here, all we wanna do is start focusing on pulling down on the racket and pulling down on it the correct way. And what I mean by this, if this was a hammer, I wouldn't be nailing a nail like with my wrist, it's a weak muscle. I would be pulling down and driving the head forward because I'm pulling down on the racket, and this is exactly what we want to do. So go ahead and take 10 motions just like this, feeling yourself pulling the racket down. After you do 10 motions, I want you to do the exact same thing but to the side. And let me explain. So you're gonna have the butt of the racket facing this way and pretending we're nailing on a wall. And we're gonna pull the butt of the racket driving the head to the wall. So you can really see how I'm, again, pulling right here. I take another 10 reps just here, getting used to pulling and avoiding the sensation of wanting to do the wrist. So I'm just gonna pull, and when I'm pulling from my shoulder and my forearm or the back of my arm forward. From here, we would take this exact same position and do another 10 reps, but what we're gonna do now is switch into our backhand grip. So from here, I'm gonna do the exact same pulling, which is now, I've changed the hammer head, which would be the strings now. So I'm gonna have the same thing of pulling and driving the strings through the ball because I'm pulling versus flicking. So many players, as they get to this position, they start trying to flick, and that's the weak muscle. And this drill, by pulling, really helps you feel the difference of now I'm pulling my shoulder, but also leveraging and driving the racket forward. I would do at least 10 reps of all 3 of these until you feel really comfortable from this pulling position into the ball. Okay, you got the butt pull. Now the next drill that we're gonna focus on is gonna focus on how do you ignite your backhand. You're thinking this isn't a bomb. How do you ignite your backhand? It means how do you use your body to now combine that with the butt pull and get maximum amount of velocity and leverage. This is another big mistake that I see a lot of players making, is that they're trying to use their arm to create all this velocity, and you can if you're doing it correctly with the butt pull. But the key really is having the butt pull leverage position and then igniting it by using your hips. And it's very different than how most people either using or not using their hips. A lot of players aren't using their hips, and then when players do use their hips, they tend to do it too much. So this drill is going to show you the exact amount of hip turn you need to get more velocity and speed through the shot without having to put in more effort. If you can do this drill and combine these 3, already you're going to see a huge improvement in your one-handed backhand. So let's go do that drill right now. So all we're going to do is start here in your normal position where you're in this butt pull position that we just talked about. From here, I want you to focus on one thing, which is turning the knee in. Just that simple act of turning the knee in is going to start igniting your hip. The faster you turn the knee in, notice how my shoulder's rotating just because I'm turning the knee in. That position there of you igniting by turning the knee in can now be leveraged because you can now turn the knee in and then send the racket through the butt pull. But in this drill, I want you to just focus on doing this at least 10 to 15 times, where all we're going to do is start here and turn the knee, feeling how by turning the knee, I'm going to pull the shoulder forward, which also pulls the racket forward. The more exaggerated or more explosive that I turn my knee, the faster this is going to happen. And then it leads to what we talked about before, is turning the knee and then going into the butt pull position. So make sure in this drill, all you're focusing on is setting up in the butt pull position and turning the knee. You're going to feel this sensation. Now, a couple mistakes that a lot of players make when they do this is that they turn the knee and they keep the hips going. You can see how open up I am now. I just want to turn that initial knee and then let the arm take over. It's not because I'm arming the stroke, it's because that simple sensation of pulling with my shoulder can send that energy down to my arm, compared to just now doing my arm by itself and feeling or not feeling the leverage and the velocity that you can get by turning the knee and then going to the butt pull position of pulling through the ball. So now we know how to prepare the racket, how to leverage the racket through the contact, how to ignite your hips. Now we need to know how to create that spin. How do we create that ball that's heavy, like we see the pros doing? They hit not just this flat driving ball, they can whip it and hit dippers. Well, that's gonna come into the path of the racket, how we're leveraging our shoulder and rotating the racket up to create spin as we move the racket forward. Now it's really important that you're not just using your wrist, but you're rolling your entire forearm and shoulder to create that racket upward motion to create more spin on the ball. So we're gonna do this drill right now to show you how to use and leverage your shoulder and forearm to create more spin so you can have that heavy one-handed backhand. And it really comes down from starting the racket path by getting up and then rotating. Now just having the racket path coming up is gonna create topspin. But if you really wanna create a heavy ball, you need to learn how to rotate your shoulder and forearm, and this is what this drill is for. So we're gonna start here, just holding your racket on top with the top knuckles with your backhand grip. From here, all I want you to do is grab your forearm and feel the sensation of your forearm rolling over. Also, we want to feel a little bit of the shoulder, so feel as if you're activating this rotation from not only shoulder and the forearm here of rolling over, compared to the wrist. We don't just want the wrist, we want bigger muscles for that shoulder and forearm. And so the first part of this drill is just starting off just like this. Start the racket off a little bit lower, and all we're going to do is roll here. Okay, so your butt of the racket is facing up right now to the butt of the racket facing down, and just practice this, feeling that forearm and shoulder rotate. Notice how I'm still grabbing my forearm to make sure I'm feeling that rotation in the forearm and helping it versus just my wrist having a weaker muscle. So I do this at least 5 to 10 times until you feel really comfortable. From here, what we're going to do is set up in that butt pull position, and we're going to set up in the butt pull position where I have this butt pull. I'm going to grab my forearm and pull the butt pull and continue to pull it while rotating and doing the drill we just did. Notice how the butt of the racket's facing down, and again, the butt of the racket facing up. The only difference is throughout doing the butt pull, we're gonna continue that and add the rotation in. What this is going to do is help you release and create more topspin coming up on the ball while keeping the racket face facing the direction we want. Now, go through and do that at least 10 to 15 times, and this is the drill you want to practice so it feels really easy and seamless when you're out on the court hitting one-handed backhand. Now it's time for the very last drill, where we focus on how do we make the ball go where we want it to go. And it really comes down to how we position our wrist at contact. So let's go do this drill really quickly so you can see exactly how to position your wrist to change the flight and height of the ball whenever you want. So now you have an understanding of how to put it all together, and you can get the ball you want for whatever shot you need. Even if you have the right racket path and the right racket swing, if you don't have the right racket face at contact, the ball is not going to go in. So this is by far one of the most important things you can focus on for your one-handed backhand. So let's get started. Hold the racket out in front, and from here, all you're going to do is grab it with your normal grip and keep the racket vertical. From here, the exercise here is to roll back and then roll slightly forward. Roll back and roll slightly forward. Now this is exaggeration because you can see very big changes in the racket face angle, but it's really key that you understand that I'm not changing my grip to make sure I'm rolling the racket back by changing my grip. I'm having my normal grip and then rolling back and rolling forward. Now, if you want to know more about what grip you should watch, make sure you check out this video because it'll really help you hone in on the exact things you need for your one-handed backhand. But now for the drill is that we want to take this rolling forward and rolling back, and then all I want you to do is drop feed yourself the ball. Now when we drop feed ourselves the ball, there's going to be three different things we're going to focus on. First, we're going to hit in this position for the butt pull position and pull forward, and making sure that at contact we are going to be rolling our wrists forward, hence closing the racket face. So you can really see now, if you understand what we said in the beginning, that wherever the racket face is looking, that's where the ball's going to go. So if I roll my wrist down, it's going to create the racket face going down, hence sending the ball down. So you're going to go ahead and swing with the racket face rolled down, causing the ball to go in the net on purpose. I know, we're hitting balls in the net on purpose. Next, I want you to do the next extreme, which is opening up the racket face and do the exact same butt pull swing. What this is now going to cause, because of the racket face, is the ball to go up too high. And then finally, you're going to do the exact same thing where you're rolling and keeping your racket face probably vertical to slightly open, because we still want some height on the ball. The key is getting really good at starting what I call trimming down. After you go up, making sure that you're slowly adjusting your racket face down to get the right height over the net. There's no one perfect height. You're going to maybe hit a topspin lob with your one-handed backhand, or maybe you need a dipper. And it's all about knowing exactly where that angle needs to be for the type of shot you need to do. And so by doing this drill of hitting with it too close and then too open and start working your way down, you start to feel exactly the racket face you need to hit the height of ball you want, or the type of ball you want. Because with these two elements of understanding racket face and what we talked about, the path, it really, really opens up the world for your one-handed back. Now that you have all these drills, you don't want to just go out and try to do it all together. You want to focus on executing on each one of these drills till you can get to 60 to 70% of great execution. Once you do this, you can move on to the next drill, and then after you go through all 5 drills, start putting it together slowly. Don't just go out and try to whack and kill the ball. Try to slowly focus on each one of those new muscle memories and habits that you've built to put it into one segment. And this now creates a process of improvement, because so many players are watching videos, learning new concepts, but they don't have the specific drills to go out and do and take new actions and create new habits so they now can change the stroke. Just because you know what to do doesn't mean your muscle memory is conditioned and has the habits to produce the stroke. This is how you take the concepts and then turn them into actions that you can now see improvement on the court.